Welcome back to AM Agenda. And over the weekend we had Prince Harry in town. He was here as a special guest and part of the International Fleet Review. He's now on his way home. Here in Sydney, he certainly wooed some Sydney-siders, but his presence in Australia hasn't exactly enamoured everyone. Yes, we've revived the constitutional monarchy versus the Republican debate. Joining me to look at both sides of this debate today, Gary Kent for Australians for a Constitutional Monarchy, the ACT convener. He joins me from Canberra, and also Jeff Gallop from the Australian Republican Movement and former WA Labor leader. Thanks so much for joining me this morning, gentlemen.
Thanks,
now,
Laura.
Jeff Gallop, I have to go first to you. You weren't all pleased about Prince Harry's presence and the welcome he got from Tony Abbott. Why not?
Well, you're totally wrong on that, Laura. We made it very clear in the Republican movement that it was quite appropriate for Prince Harry to be invited to our celebrations. After all, the Australian Navy and the British Navy have worked together over the years, and should Australia have been a republic, I'm sure a representative of the British Navy and possibly the British royal family would have come here. What we objected to was the Prime Minister of Australia politicising Prince Harry's visit here by saying to him that he regrets to inform him that not all Australians are monarchists. So it was Tony Abbott that brought the division to this very important day in our history by raising the question of monarchy versus the republic, not the Republican movement.
So you were happy with Prince Harry being here, but you didn't like the politicising of Tony Abbott. There was a few comments over the weekend, not from your movement, but just generally about the fact that taxpayers would have to fund this type of visit. Do you object to that?
Well, no, this was a celebration of the Australian Navy and its history, and it's quite appropriate that other countries be represented. Other navies were here. It was a very important day. We could reflect upon the role of the Navy in protecting Australian interests. That's the role of the Australian Navy, and it was quite inappropriate for the Prime Minister of Australia to do what he's doing all the time now, is putting into the debate his own very personal views on Australia as a constitutional monarchy, rather than putting the Australian point of view and Australian interests first.
Gary Kent, what's your take on this? Prince Harry certainly wooed some Sydney-siders over the weekend. Now, did Tony Abbott unnecessarily politicise this event?
Not at all, Laura. I think it was a very light-hearted comment. I thought that it raised laughs from a lot of people. I think that whenever there's a royal visit, people are really pleased and excited, and I think a lot of Republicans did probably feel like monarchists over the weekend. It was a light-hearted remark and should be taken as such. To take up Jeff's other point, we are a constitutional monarchy. We are very proud of that, and I don't see any reason why Tony Abbott should not make frequent reference to that wherever he goes, if that's what he wishes. That is our system of government. It was confirmed in a referendum in 1999, and I think Jeff's being a little bit unfair in accusing Mr Abbott of politicising the visit.
Jeff Gallop, let's go back to the grounds of this debate. Why do we need to become a republic? You know, Australians enjoy a pretty good way of life at the moment. What would be the material difference for the general public, for the general Australian people in their day-to-day life?
Well, I think there's two issues here. First of all, as a point of principle, it is not a good thing for any nation to have their head of state existing and related to the system of another country. I mean, that's a bad thing for the nation of Australia, full stop. And it undermines, I believe it undermines the pride with which we should treat our political institutions. And out of that pride, I think we'll develop energy, Australian energy that we don't have at the moment, because we're half a monarchy and half a republic. And I think if we went down the road of being a republic, Australian people would feel a lot better about themselves. They would be more energetic. We would be able to use our head of state far more effectively than we can currently. I mean, the Australian head of state currently is in Buckingham Palace, and that head of state comes out of a system which is not our own.
Gary,
so I think it would be a very good thing for our country.
Yeah, he's got a point. Jeff Gallop has a point there. I mean, is the monarchy still relevant to the Australian public? Gary Kent?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. You there? Yep.
Good. Yes, I think that the monarchy is extremely relevant. You only have to look at the number of people who came out to see the Queen in 2011, Prince William in 2010-11, and the huge crowds that turned out yesterday to see Prince Harry and the other activities on the harbour. And the same will be the case in Perth. It is extremely relevant. It's a system of government that has served us well for over 100 years. We are probably one of the most democratic countries in the world. You only have to look to see what's happening in the USA at the moment with their budget crisis. We don't have those sorts of problems here because of our Westminster system of government, and the Crown is an integral part of that. I don't feel at all a second-rate citizen.
I'll get you to respond to that, but also it's been we went to. This was all talked about. It was put to a referendum in 1999. It failed, and one of the arguments has been that it's just so expensive to move away from being a constitutional monarchy. Do you accept that as one of the arguments against?
Oh, not at all. I mean, the most important institutions that exist in any society of course, relate to the politics of that country, the Constitution. And we believe our Constitution should express the Australian character, which of course is based upon independence, fairness. Not all Australian citizens can become the head of state of their own country. The head of state of Australia comes from Britain and its own processes.
Do you accept that with Tony Abbott as Prime Minister that this cause might be put back for at least another decade? We all know how he feels about the monarchy, and he is a staunch monarchist.
Not at all. I think every time Tony Abbott does something that indicates his belief in and support for the monarchy, such as bringing back the picture of the Queen in government offices, just intensifies the enthusiasm of Republicans throughout the country to change the system. So not at all. I mean, Tony Abbott's attitude to this is actually helping the Republican movement by reminding all of us of the ridiculousness of having the Queen of Britain as our head of state.
Gary Kent, your response to that?
I don't really accept any of that. We share a head of state with New Zealand, Canada and a range of other countries. I'm proud of that. I think that we have our own Australian Governor-General, and she performs an outstanding job in travelling the world and selling Australia to the world. I'm not at all, I don't feel like a second-rate citizen. The Crown is an important part of our national life and has been for hundreds of years. I just don't think people want to change. I don't think that a change would benefit the country, and it would be hugely expensive. And I don't think the Republicans can actually work out what sort of head of state they want. The public will not accept a politician's republic where the president is appointed. All
right, Gary Kent and Jeff Gallop, a passionate debate this morning. Thanks so much for joining us. I don't think there was one point of agreement there. So thank you, gentlemen, on this public holiday Monday. That is it for AM Agenda.
Overnight. And here at the Buzz, we just can't decide. We've got